And please, again, make sure you're muted so we don't get any background noise. Matt, it's all yours, buddy.
All right, awesome. Everyone, thank you for introducing yourselves. My name is Matthew Smith, and I am with the Temecula New Generations Rotary Club. I am also the Youth Protection Officer for District 5330. So I appreciate everybody being here today. It is a lot of information that we're going to go over, but the slides will be available to you, and I will be available to you as well to help. If you have any questions, please let me know. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's get this show on the road. All right, so this is my first slide. My phone number is here and my email address is here. My email address is also underneath my name and my title on my screen. So it's youthprotectionofficer@gmail.com. So we're going to start with a little video. So make sure your sound's up.
Hello, I'm Holger Knag, Rotary International President for 2021. Rotary youth programs are the best in the world, and we take very seriously the matter of youth protection and safety. My wife Susan and I have hosted several youth exchange students at our home in Germany for the last 23 years. All of those students are a great and continuing source of joy in our lives. In turn, these students and all of the young people involved in Rotary's youth programs enrich Rotary by developing as leaders, promoting goodwill, engaging in service, and promoting peace around the world. This impact is only possible when we make a commitment to protect the health and safety of these young people. To do this, we must be knowledgeable about how to prevent, identify, and respond to abuse or suspected abuse that involves our youth. The following training course was developed by experts in child protection. It provides details on how club and district leaders can help keep youth safe, in line with Rotary's guidelines and policies. These tips will help you prevent and respond to abuse. Keeping young people safe is everyone's responsibility in Rotary. Please use this training course as a resource to foster safe environments across our organization. Parents and young people are counting on us. Thank you for making youth protection your highest priority and keeping Rotary's youth programs the best in the world.
Awesome. So I don't know, something about him that just gets me excited. He doesn't seem very over the top, but he just is very passionate about Rotary and about protecting the youth, and so am I. So I think that's awesome. So like Rudy said, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. He will be monitoring that. We will go through quite a few different slides, a lot of different information, but it's good information. And so if you've sat through one of my trainings before, this is a lot of new information and a lot of different information. All of this information can actually be found as well on Rotary.org through the Learning Center. So it goes into a little bit more detail than we're going to go into today, but it's a lot of the same information. So first I want to start with some facts. A lot of people have some questions and they center around the LiveScan process. So the LiveScan process is not necessarily part of the youth protection policy, but it is an aspect of us trying to safeguard both the Rotary name and our youth by sending people through a background check through the Department of Justice. So our district does have a youth protection policy, and I'm happy to come and talk to your club about it, and/or I can send you a copy of it. I physically have all of the current LiveScans in my possession at my house in a locked filing cabinet. So yes, they are sending them nowadays through electronic format, but I do print them out and I do have them on file. Nobody else sees those but me, and that is because I am the custodian of records. So I am the person that holds all of those live scans. They have personal information on them, not including the Department of Justice information, but your social security numbers on there, your names on there, date of birth, things of that nature. So it's very important that we keep those safe and that they don't get out to anybody else. If you have been live scanned with our district and never left, we should have a live scan on file for you. So I'll go into the frequently asked questions in a minute, and I'll go over that a little bit more. If you want to know if you have a live scan on file, you can always email me. And then if you want to know who in your club has been live scanned, you can also send me an email. I know several of you on the call have done that in the past. And I've sent lists out to people, and it just says yes or no next to the person's name. It doesn't say any other personal information, nothing about what's on the live scan, just whether they have a live scan on file with us or not. Awesome. So some of the common questions I get, I'll just kind of answer these up front so that people kind of understand the process a little bit better, hopefully. A lot of people will ask if I've been live scanned with another agency, another school, another city, other nonprofits, do I have to get live scanned again? I hear this one a lot. Oh, I volunteer at the school, or I volunteer at the Red Cross, or I volunteer wherever. We had to get live scanned, so I don't need to be live scanned again. Unfortunately, the way that live scan works, first, let's just understand that live scan is a company, and it's one of the different background checks that they can do through the Department of Justice. So live scan is the form that we use, and you get fingerprinted. It goes through the Department of Justice records. If you have ever had anything in your past that is still on file, it will then be reported to me. And then from there, we will make decisions on whether we feel comfortable with you working with the youth or not. And at that point, we'll let the appropriate people know. And we'll talk about that more through the training on how that works. So how long does my live scan last? I get that a lot from people. They'll ask a question. Somebody's feeding back. So
okay, hold on one second. If you've just come in, please mute yourself. We've got background noise.
And then as a mentor, our number one objective is to help walk you through doing your icebreaker. And then your
It's Gary. Gary just joined. It says he's unmuted.
Because if we help you get through that first level, you have that success, and then that success drives you, and it keeps you a Toastmaster. Now you work harder to be better, and that again comes full circle to retaining other members.
Matthew, this is Mark. You can mute everyone and with one click.
I'm not the host. Ruby is.
Everybody else, this is how we do things, and everyone will follow suit, and that becomes the most important part. Now, membership, we've got to get 4 members in the first.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you. So how long does my live scan last? Is the question that I get a lot. Some awesome Rotarians have been around the clubs or in our district for 30 plus years, and live scan came out when they were actually Rotarian. And so once you're live scanned, it stays with our district unless I or a previous custodian of records sends in a form that says we are no longer interested in this person. So the only time that happens when I have the records is if you leave Rotary, I will say that we're no longer interested. And for any reason you come back, then you may have to get live scanned again. I do hold on to live scans and cross them from club to club if you've moved clubs, but I need to know that. So if somebody has left a club and come and join your club and you're in charge of youth protection or in charge of the live scans, please let me know that person has moved clubs, and I will physically move their file or their live scan from one folder to the next. Some people will call me and ask, how do I get the proper form to get live scanned? I do have a form that's already pre-filled out. It has all my information on there, all the different numbers, AOI number, things of that nature to tie it to our district. So you can always email me or text me for that, and I can send it to you in email. I have it on Dropbox, so anytime, whether I'm at home or not, I can send it to you. What is our billing number for the district? Most of the time they don't need that, but if they require it, I will give it to you when you're on site. We don't want that number getting out, because if somebody gets a hold of your LifeScan form and it has the billing number on it, then they can always use our billing number and then we would be charged for it. So if you need that, please let me know. And then who pays for the LifeScan? I get that question a lot. And that's, every club is different, is the answer to that. So my club is the Temecula New Generations Rotary Club, and we're a smaller club and we don't have a ton of money. And so we ask the volunteer to pay for it. What you should be paying for is the person actually doing the LifeScan and not the DOJ fee, Department of Justice fee. So it should be anywhere between $15 and $25 usually. Usually the local police departments will do it. You just have to call and schedule an appointment, and then they can take care of it. So that's the general questions I get in regards to LifeScans and how that process works. So now we're going to get into the actual training itself, the youth protection training, and different policies and procedures and things that we can do for best practices. So this first slide is in regards to clubs and district policies and procedures. We should cover the volunteer application process and screening procedures. I highly recommend that you have volunteers fill out an application so that we have their information, where they live, their phone number, and a couple of other things on file, just in case we need to get a hold of them or somebody else needs to get a hold of them if something happens. We don't just want volunteered, James or Jack to show up and that's all we know about them. We don't know where they came from, and all that information. So applications are always good if you can get them filled out, and the screening process for the volunteer and their job descriptions and the list of the responsibilities that they're going to be in charge of and or that you expect from them, so that everyone's on the same page. Standards for the ratio of adults to minors needed for supervision. For example, 1 adult for every 10 minors. You might put something in place like that when you are having an event. You might want to have 10 people from your club because there's going to be 100 youth kids there, and one person can't watch 100 kids, and you don't want to be by yourself with 100 kids either, because it's not highly recommended. So crisis management procedures that include how to handle medical and other emergencies, and how to communicate with parents and legal guardians. These are things that you may want to have already in place before you need them. You don't want to get into a situation where you don't have policies, you don't have procedures on how to handle these problems arising. Let's say, for instance, you're at an event and somebody gets hurt. Obviously, you should have hopefully planned and had a first aid kit on hand and or known where the closest hospital and or emergency room is, just in case something happens. If you plan for the worst and nothing happens, that's always great. But if you don't plan at all and something bad happens, then it could possibly come back and not look great on your club and or Rotary in general. So written guidelines consistent with Rotary policies on reporting and following up on allegations or incidences. We're going to cover some of this, and you guys may already have a lot of this in place, but if not, it's going to be highly recommended that you put it in place so that you are ready when the occasion arises, if it ever does arise. So in this course, we'll explain Rotary's definitions of abuse and harassment, talk about how to recognize and address signs of both, and discuss the roles and responsibilities of clubs and district leaders. No organization, not even Rotary, unfortunately, is immune to risks in youth safety. When we talk openly about how these issues affect our programs and our communities, we reaffirm our commitment to creating a safe and inclusive environment for all, especially young people. So everyone must follow Rotary youth protection policies. This isn't one of those policies that, I don't have to follow because I'm a president. I don't have to follow it because I'm a volunteer and not part of the Rotary program. If people are going to volunteer with the youth, they need to follow the protection policies. Rotary's policies are designed to prevent and respond to abuse and harassment, and to manage risk across every country and culture. All clubs and districts are required to follow them. That means not only keeping the environment physically safe, but also promoting effective risk management procedures, cooperative volunteer attitudes, and an ethical organizational culture. So for activities that involve overnight stays or travel outside of the local community, clubs and districts also need to obtain written permission in advance from the parents or guardians of all participants. So if you've ever participated in RILA or Pride, you know that this is something that we kind of have to hassle and run around and chase the kids for, but written permission from their parents and or guardians is something that we have to have on file. Give parents or legal guardians before departure, so this is something we recommend sending ahead of time, details about the trip or activity, including travel itineraries, sleeping accommodations, and the contact information of program organizers. So I hope that you guys put together a little sheet for all of your campers when they do go to either RILA or Pride, and that is makes everyone kind of feel a little bit easier when they know they have multiple phone numbers if they ever need to get a hold of somebody or something happens. They also know which way the bus is going to drive, so that they know if it's going to go up the hill, what time they should anticipate it to leave, and then what time they should anticipate it to come back. We also encourage the kids, if they are of age, which 7th graders definitely are of age nowadays to have cell phones, to be in contact with their parents so that their parents know when they're coming and going from camp, so that they feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that, okay, my child's on the road, we should anticipate them at a certain amount of time. And then require the parent or legal guardian of each minor to provide travel insurance for the minor if they're traveling more than 150 miles away. So this is going to be more for your exchange kids, people that are going further away to different programs. If you have maybe an Interact club and they're going to be traveling to a conference or something far away, then this is where you would want to make sure that everyone has travel insurance and that they're covered properly. I was at RILA one year when one of the foreign exchange students popped his shoulder out of his socket, and luckily the exchange program provided insurance for them, and so that it wasn't an issue. He had his temporary insurance card. He was able to be seen. There was no questions asked, and there was no problem. So just things to keep in mind, and things that you want to make sure that your club provides so everyone's safe and that it's as smooth as trip as possible. So clubs and district responsibilities, different levels of different responsibilities, and so we'll go over those. A club's leader responsibility. So this is at the club level. Rotary Club presidents have an overall responsibility for operating and coordinating the club's youth activities with the support of the club's committee members. So we may have some presidents on here, but we also may have some Interact advisors. We may have some youth exchange, youth advisors, youth services advisors, and or youth protection officers for the club. So this is the overall president's responsibility to make sure that they work with you as a club committee member to make sure all of these youth activities are safe. So club leaders must know all Rotary and district youth protection policies, provide required training, screen volunteers, and implement a risk management strategy. They must coordinate with district chairs and district governor to address and report any allegations of abuse and harassment and implement the safeguards that are necessary to protect youth people. So as the leader of your club and or president of your club, the people, if they have a concern or an allegation, they can bring it to you, and then you can bring it to the other members of the district. As the youth protection officer, I actually like talking to the person that's involved in the situation or that knows the most about the situation. So you don't necessarily have to be the president or a youth chair to bring something to my attention, and I'm sure Barry feels the same way. So as district leaders and responsibility, district chairs should coordinate their efforts to raise awareness of youth safety issues and work together to develop and implement youth protection policies and ensure that all clubs follow them. So that's actually what we're doing here, is we're making sure that all the clubs have training, formal training, and that they know where they can get some support and or guidelines to kind of steer them in the right direction. And so at any time, if you have any questions, we're here to support you and to give you ideas and some maybe what other clubs have done. But any way we can support you, that's our goal. So like club leaders, district leaders assist with training, screening procedures, and risk management. They coordinate with other district chairs and district governors to address and report any allegations of abuse and harassment. And they keep the district governor informed about youth program activities. They also maintain confidential records of anyone who is prohibited from participating in Rotary activities or whose membership was terminated because of incidents of abuse or harassment. So I do have a file of people that have been terminated through our district. You're going to see later on in the training that if you are found guilty of harassment and or abuse, then Rotary is going to ask you to step down and to no longer be a Rotarian. They'll ask you to resign. And then there is a reporting commitment to Rotary International. And then Rotary International will actually write up a one-page termination letter for that person saying that they're no longer eligible to be a Rotarian, and that we are to hold that in our file and folder, and they will actually hold it in a file and folder as well. So if somebody applies to be a Rotarian in another district, that it will flag their system as well. So a district governor's responsibility. The district governor has control over and supervision of district programs, including all youth programs and activities. Given the sensitive nature of the youth programs, we encourage governors to use the period between being nominated and taking office to learn as much as possible about their district youth programs. So for those of you that have gone to RYLA and Pride, you always see our district governors and our governor line up at Pride and RYLA because they want to see exactly how it's functioning, how it's going, and they want to get a good idea of what's going on and how they can support the youth, but also how they can support making sure that they're safe well before they actually take the governorship. So we appreciate that with our governors. Governors must ensure that the district has and enforces a youth protection policy that complies with Rotary's policies and that all policies are reviewed by local legal professionals. Governors should also appoint a youth protection or youth program district chair who also is knowledgeable and committed to protecting young people. Governors must promptly and fully address any allegations of abuse and harassment with the district. That may include taking over the administration of youth programs themselves, even if they were previously delegated to another club or district officer. They must also closely review any allegations of abuse, harassment, or other inappropriate behavior that might disqualify a volunteer from working with young people, even if it does not directly involve the youth. So now that we know whose roles or what we're supposed to do in our different roles, and it's all of our jobs to report and protect the youth, we're going to go into what are abuse and harassment. Sexual abuse can be defined as engaging in or arranging implicit or explicit sexual acts, whether they're performed alone or with another person of any age or gender, through force or coercion, or with anyone who can't consent. Sexual harassment can be defined as sexual advances, requests for sexual acts, or verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature that is unwanted or directed at someone who is unwilling or unable to consent. Sexual abuse and harassment include, but are not limited to, sexual assault, which would be considered making illegal, unwanted sexual contact. It can take many different forms. Coercion, stalking, indecent exposure, so inappropriately revealing one's body or a portion of one's body. Degrading sexual imagery, so using, displaying, or sharing sexual suggestive or offensive words, objects, pictures, articles, letters, emails, text messages, which is a big one nowadays, or websites. Voyeurism, cyber harassment, which is displaying overt aggression towards another person using technology, including emails, social media, text messages, digital pictures, or web posting. There's a lot of cyber harassment that goes on. Unfortunately, with all the new social media technology in the last couple of decades, kids are constantly on social media. The youth use that almost as their primary way to converse with each other nowadays, which is very sad. But they also can hide behind screen names and hide behind different social media platforms and still send crude and unwanted messages to people. And then trafficking and sexual exploitation. This is one that a lot of people just don't think that it happens here in Riverside and San Bernardino County. And if you've ever gone to the Peace Conference or you've heard sex trafficking talks, it is amazing to me how many people actually get trafficked out of our own backyard. So trafficking and sexual exploitation is something that happens right here where we live. So many other types of abuse and harassment could also be included, but not limited to physical abuse, physical harassment, psychological abuse, verbal abuse, bullying and cyberbullying. This is a big one. I know Ruby is very passionate about bullying and cyberbullying. This happens every single day, multiple times a day. Unfortunately, I'm part of another nonprofit group, and we have experienced and heard kids have unfortunately taken their own lives because of bullying and cyberbullying at very young ages. And it's very, very sad. I'm sure everyone's read it in the news as well. It's just really, really sad. Discrimination and neglect are a couple others. So the signs of abuse or harassment are not always easy to recognize. Often young people tell you that something is wrong only through changes in their behavior, not through their words. What seems like typical adolescent behavior or a young person being difficult could actually indicate that they've been abused either by an adult or by a peer. So signs of abuse or harassment may include things like physical changes, and you may not know why, but if you actually explain to the person that you are here to support them and that you're here to protect them and let them know and talk about different kinds of abuse that are not okay, then they could possibly, then explain to you what has happened. Some people will get anxious. You'll see some depression or withdrawal, delinquency or age inappropriate behavior, and aggression. So somebody that you may know as a very mild temper person, they get along with everybody, and then all of a sudden they start being aggressive or they show a lot of aggression, something's happened in that person's life. And it could unfortunately be abuse by somebody, whether they know them or not, or it could be any kind of any one of the harassments that we just listed. So these aren't, something that the person is normally acting this way. These are changes in their actual behavior, and that may be a sign to you that, hey, something's going on with this person. So recognizing inappropriate behavior or abusive behavior, everyone needs to understand the difference between appropriate and inappropriate interactions. This will help you recognize behaviors that might indicate intent to abuse a child. A shared understanding of what's appropriate and what's inappropriate may prevent abuse, and it may even prevent false allegations. A typical abuser can't be identified by age, economic status, community standing, race, gender, or intelligence. Abusers can be people you know well. They can be respected members of the community who use their status to manipulate others and protect themselves from accusations. Young people are often abused or harassed by people they know or people in positions of authority, which I think is so, so sad. So it's important to recognize and immediately address any inappropriate behaviors you see in adults who have contact with youth. So somebody that might be seeking time alone with somebody, isolating someone from their friends or their family. So you may see somebody that is an older person that's kind of involved with the younger person, and they're isolating them, telling them, oh, you shouldn't hang out with this person, or don't tell your mom this, or your mom's not a good person, or your dad's not a good person. They're trying to get them to isolate as much as possible so that they can do whatever they feel comfortable and whatever they're going to try to do with this child. So offering special treatment, giving gifts, if older people are giving young people gifts, extravagant gifts, things of that nature could be a sign. Keeping secrets, if somebody says, oh, so-and-so told me this, but I'm not supposed to tell you, there's not supposed to be secrets in general, but secrets between an older person and a young person definitely is a sign that something may be going on. Touching, desensitizing. So desensitizing is going to be somebody that maybe will touch a person's shoulder, and then later they'll rub their arm, and then later they may advance to putting their arm around them, and so on and so forth. And then forcing consent. If they're forcing consent at all and pushing themselves on somebody, that's definitely a sign of inappropriate behavior. All these actions can be used to groom or prepare a person to be harassed or abused. People with harmful intent use these actions to gain someone's trust, win their confidence, or convince the young person that they truly care about them. Over time, abusers build affection and dependence to make the young person believe they're a willing participant in the abuser's inappropriate behavior. So that is very, very sickening to me to even think about somebody doing that. But it is time and time again, you'll hear about, I've known this person for the last couple of years, and then slowly over time, they have groomed this person or gotten them to think that it's okay to do the actions that ultimately they're convicted of. And unfortunately, a lot of times that includes sexual abuse or emotional abuse or something that is definitely not okay. So addressing inappropriate behavior, address the first sign of inappropriate behavior that you see. Regardless of your role, if you see an inappropriate interaction or signs of grooming behavior, don't wait to address it. Don't blow it off. Don't say, oh, well, maybe I saw that wrong, or let me talk to so-and-so to see what their take is on it. If you think that it's inappropriate behavior, address it right away so it doesn't get out of hand, and hopefully it can stop something before it starts. Contact Rotary International. If the behavior involved a district leader or someone in a position of authority, and if you're unsure whether it was inappropriate or not, you can always contact Rotary International staff for assistance. And that's one thing that I've learned over the years is Rotary International is actually very responsive, and they're there to help you if you need it. Most of it is through email, so you do have to wait a little bit of time to get a response. But once you get a relationship with somebody, most of the time you'll end up with their phone number, and then you can always call them. But they're always willing to help, and it's a great resource for you. If you're not sure who to talk to here, you can always call them, and they'll guide you in the right direction. So as the person, the custodian of records, I can review the district's records to determine if there's a pattern. So if something's happened, but the person has not been accused of it, or it's just, hey, let's watch this person because we think there's inappropriate behavior. Luckily, in our district, we don't have any of this right now, which is good. But if for some reason district leadership should review the district's records to determine whether an adult has been observed behaving this way before, or if similar complaints have been reported, that's something that we definitely want to address. So if you see anything or hear anything, you can always report it. We'll take a note of it, and we'll go from there if there's no allegations actually filed and or there's no action taken. So reiterate your expectations. This may be a good opportunity to commute your expectations to all involved in youth programs. Reiterate the youth protection policies and how they protect both the youth people and the adults. And this one I definitely recommend that you do in front of everybody. Don't do it just to maybe your club and then you guys go meet with a bunch of kids. If you have an Interact club, discuss it at your Interact meeting, maybe the first Interact meeting of the year, the second Interact meeting of the year. Just lay down the ground rules. Set the expectation, and everybody knows exactly what's going to happen and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, so that there's no ambiguity behind it, and people know exactly what's expected of them and how they're supposed to act. So monitoring a person's behavior, make sure to notify everyone who needs to know in order to properly monitor the person and ensure that the measures put in place are being enforced. So this is if somebody, if you come across an incident where you think somebody's acting inappropriately, and you've discussed it with them and they've been warned and it wasn't, an offense, then you obviously want to make sure you stay in contact with everybody that may be interacting with that person. Make sure your president knows, hey, we're going to keep an eye on this person because they acted inappropriately or we thought they were acting inappropriately. Talk with the young person and their parents or legal guardians. So this is actually if something happens, explain to the young person that the adult behavior was inappropriate, tell them that their safety is your highest priority, and offer to arrange for them to speak with someone like a social worker or a police officer about what happened, and be prepared if they report abuse or harassment. And then reporting allegations of abuse, only law enforcement officers are in a position to determine whether a crime has occurred. So it's not our job to be judge and jury. It is our job to report the offense and then let the proper authorities look into if it was an actual offense was committed or not. So somebody may say something happened. It's not for us to go and go up to the alleged offender and try to, ask them about it and figure out if it was done, or if that what the other person said was true or not true. That's not up to us. That's up to law enforcement. So let them handle it. Any allegations of abuse or harassment must be reported to law enforcement officials immediately and to Rotary International within 72 hours of learning of the incident. So if you have any questions about that, you can contact me. If you want me to contact RI, I can. Again, I like to have the person that was firsthand involved in the situation be the person to either contact Rotary or to talk to me, and then I can then report it to Rotary International, and then it'll end up in our file for our district. So in summary, address the first signs of inappropriate behavior. Hopefully we can avoid the rest of this, but if you address it, be upfront about it, and everybody knows the expectations, then we're good there. Contact Rotary International if you have any questions and for guidance. Review the district records to determine if anybody has a pattern. If you think that they might have a pattern or you may have heard something, you can always contact me and I'll let you know. In the form of letting you know, I will say yes or no. I will not give you explicit details because that's personal information, but I will let you know, hey, we're not allowing that person to work with the youth, and or, yes, there's been an incident in the past, or no, there has not been an incident in the past. I can tell you right now that we don't have anybody in our district that has an incident in the past, which is good. Everyone's, removed themselves from Rotary if anything's happened. Reiterate your expectations, monitor the person's behavior, talk with the young person and their parents or legal guardian if they need support, and then report allegations of abuse. So if you come across a situation where unfortunately you had to get into the role of reporting an allegation, how to report an allegation or abuse or harassment that involves a youth, receive the report. It's important to tell the person that you'll keep the matter as confidential as possible, but be clear that you have to inform a limited number of people for the young person's safety. And so what that entails is you can't tell the person, whatever you tell me is 100% safe here. Be upfront and honest with them. I will do as much as I can to protect the confidentiality of the situation, but I may need to tell law enforcement. I'm going to have to tell our district governor, or we're going to have to let RI know, Rotary International. But we're not going to go to the papers with it. We're not going to tell anybody else, but just let them know that it's not 100% confidential. Get the information. So ask questions that establish the facts. Remember, retelling the facts of an incident can be traumatizing to the victim. So avoid asking them to recount the incident repeatedly. Be empathetic and supportive of their needs. So don't ask why questions. Ask factual questions. What happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Who was involved? And is there anything else you want to tell me? Don't lead them down a path. Don't interject your story. Just get the information. And then make sure the young person is safe. So if you need to remove the participant from contact with the person whose behavior is in question, do so. Relocating them to a safe environment is our #1 priority. Providing professional support services like medical treatment or counseling is something we definitely want to make sure we make available to them so that they feel 100% supported. And monitoring them for signs of physical or emotional distress. We obviously don't want that to happen at all to them. So remove the accused person from youth activities. So according to Rotary's youth protection policy, anyone accused of sexual abuse or harassment must be removed from contact with participants until the matter is resolved. Report the incident to the police. Clubs and districts must let law enforcement decide what's criminal. We talked about this already a little bit. Doing so protects all parties by ensuring an objective review. And then report the incident to Rotary International, like we talked about. So all allegations of abuse and harassment need to go to RI within 72 hours. And then there's a form, it's a Rotary Youth Protection Incident Form that needs to be filled out as best as possible. So once you've made an allegation or made a report, sent in the information to RI, and you've contacted the police, then you always need to make sure you follow up and implement safeguards. So implementing and enforcing prohibitions during an investigation, make sure the person accused of wrongdoing is not in contact with young people. Leaders of the club and districts that are involved should be told about the prohibition so that they can enforce it. So if somebody has been accused, they haven't resigned from the club yet because the allegation hasn't been confirmed or denied, then they don't, that you can't ask them to resign before anything's happened. They have their right to somebody else looking into it. But make sure you monitor them. Working with the youth is a right. It's not something, or it's not a right, it's a privilege. So they do not, it's not a guarantee. You can tell them that they cannot work with the youth. If for some reason the allegations are confirmed and they are accused of the crime and it's been, paperwork's been processed, they've, been, most of the time, they're going to be arrested if something's happened that's serious, pretty serious. Then the person, you can terminate the person's club membership. So a club must terminate the membership of any person who admits to, is convicted of, that's the word I was looking for, convicted of, or is otherwise known to have engaged in sexual abuse or harassment of a young person or youth program participants. So at this point in time, you can explain to them that they're no longer, eligible to be a Rotarian. You can give them the option to resign. At that point, if they don't resign, then you can terminate their membership for cause. But unfortunately, we've experienced this a couple of times, and the person has always resigned. So determine what safeguards are necessary. So in an investigation into a claim of sexual abuse or harassment is inconclusive, additional safeguards must be put in place for the safety of everyone involved and to assure the protection of any youth and the person may have contact with in the future. So this is what we talked about as far as labeling them in our district as not being able to work with the youth. So something comes back as inconclusive, but we still don't feel comfortable with them working with our youth. We can tell them, sorry, but at this point in time, we're not going to allow you to work with the youth. So maintain confidential records. It's essential for districts to maintain confidential records of both members and non-members who are prohibited from working with youth or whose membership has been terminated. This helps keep these people out of the contact with young people in the Rotary context. So if you have any questions about that, you can always let me know. A lot of clubs will actually have their volunteers live scanned, and I do hold that live scan on file. Also, we have a lot of Rotaractors that are involved in both RYLA and Pride, and they are not Rotarians of our district, but they're Rotaractors, but I also have a file for them that is kept with the live scans, and so we're tracking them as well, just to make sure that all the people that go to RYLA and Pride are live scanned for sure, and then as many people as we can in the district that we get live scanned as well. So take these steps to follow up on any allegation, implement and enforce prohibition, terminate the person's club membership if it comes down to that, determine what safeguards are necessary if it doesn't come down to that, and then maintain confidential records all the time. So handling media inquiries. This is one thing that is newer to the training that I didn't receive a couple years ago. But unfortunately with media and Facebook and Instagram and all these different social media platforms, Snapchat and all these things, people are always looking to do either interviews or they're looking for comments. So If an incident that involves a young person receives attention from the media or is discussed on social media, you may be asked to comment. Every district should appoint a spokesperson to talk with the media. This is, I feel, one place where we definitely need guidance, either from RI or from Barry as our governor. But each situation is different who you're going to appoint as a spokesperson. You may have the same spokesperson, unfortunately, if you have multiple incidences in the same area of focus. But if it's a different area of focus and you have somebody that's a professional in that area, you may assign somebody else to be the spokesperson. But the idea is all other club and district officers should avoid speaking to the media and instead refer any requests or comments to that spokesperson. So you only have one person talking about the incident. In addition to making sure that comments are clear and consistent, a spokesperson can manage any risk to the reputation of your club, district, or Rotary International. Unfortunately, we do have to look out for our brand as well as ourselves and our clubs, and we want to make sure we're putting out the right image. So Rotary's media relations staff provides advice and the best practices to district governors, youth exchange chairs, club presidents, and other club and district leaders who serve as spokespeople. The staff members can provide sample statements or help you prepare for in-person interviews. They can also help you monitor a situation and related media coverage, including on social media. So your district spokesperson, if you end up having to be a club spokesperson or a district spokesperson, can always contact pr@rotary.org even after normal business hours in several different languages. They want to be there to support you as much as possible, and they want to make sure that it just doesn't become blown out and or shine in the wrong light, and to make sure that we're protecting the youth and ourselves as much as possible throughout the whole process. And everybody knows the media can be very nosy and very pushy, and you don't want to say the wrong thing or be upset and say something that you're going to regret later. So creating a safe environment is really what it's all about to start. So set an example, model preventative behaviors in your everyday interactions. Don't be afraid to talk about abuse and harassment. This is one topic that nobody wants to talk about. Like young kids don't want to talk about sex. Older people don't want to talk about abuse and harassment, even though it happens all the time. And I think HR people and businesses literally can make a living off of abuse and sexual harassment and different things that happen just in the workplace. Well, maybe not now through Zoom, but you know what I'm saying. So speak openly with young people and adults about appropriate boundaries, privacy, and consent. That's a big deal. Consent is a big deal. Don't be afraid to talk about abuse and harassment. Always ask for permission before you initiate any physical contact. Hey, do you mind if I'm going to show somebody this trick? Can I touch your arm, or can I touch your shoulder, or would you like a hug? Things of that nature. I don't recommend that us as adults initiate any hugging contact with youth. But if, for instance, they look like they need a hug, or they ask you, "Can I have a hug?" Then at that point, that's asking before you initiate contact. Remember that consent can be revoked at any time, and young people should feel that they can say no. So you may at one point in time, have consoled somebody and maybe put one arm around them, give them a one-arm hug or something like that, but it's not okay to do every time you see them. It's not okay to do every time you say goodbye. So it's, it can be revoked, and it's not appropriate all the time. So then establish and maintain boundaries. Understand that physical contact may not be appropriate because children cannot consent. So that is one big thing that you have to be careful of. As an adult, you are the person that needs to set the example. You are the person that's supposed to know right from wrong. And even if that person is 14, 15, 16 years old, they're under 18 years old, and they say, "Oh yeah, it's okay," ultimately you can still be charged with a crime because they cannot consent. So working in groups. Unsupervised contact could create an unsafe environment for children or lead to speculation about the nature of a relationship. So just don't put yourself in that position. Always work in groups, always travel in groups. Don't put yourself in a one-on-one situation with kids, because then it could lead to a he said, she said situation, and that's just not going to be a good thing. Empower young people. Reinforce openly and often that all inappropriate behavior is unacceptable, regardless of the circumstances, and should be reported immediately. Emphasize that no one has the right to harm anyone else. Make sure that the students feel safe, believe, and free from retaliation for reporting an incident. So, it's one of those kind of whistleblower situations where you don't want people to feel bad because they're telling, something bad happened, or that they witnessed something else. You don't want them to feel that it's, they should be ashamed of it or that there's anything wrong with it. They need to feel empowered by it and make sure that they understand that it's the right thing to do. And then stay committed. Show your commitment to preventing abuse and harassment by reinforcing through your words and your actions the idea that Rotary has no tolerance for abuse or harassment. Make no exceptions. So protecting young people is everyone's responsibility. Make sure you're creating a safe environment for youth and your members by revisiting this training anytime you need to. Share this training and its resources with other club and district leaders. Talking with clubs and district leaders about your youth protection policies, and creating a committee or instituting a process to address any allegations. Again, that's one of the things that I highly recommend. Talk about this stuff before it actually shows up. If you have a plan for it and you understand what your club's going to do, if something were to arise, everyone feels like, okay, let's go into this mode. We know what we're supposed to do. Here's the policy and procedure. Let's follow it. And then hopefully you can be done with the situation and move on from it. And you're not running around like, I'm not sure what to do, or you do the wrong thing. So do that ahead of time. I highly recommend it. And then make it clear to members that the safety and well-being of young people is your highest priority. So here's some different resources for you. You can visit Rotary.org for all these and more resources that are available. So there is a youth protection guide. It's a PDF. I have it downloaded. If you want it, I can send it to you. You can also go on Rotary.org and find it. Rotary's Youth Exchange Handbook. So if we're going to deal with an exchange student and the policies and procedures that go with that. There's an Interact guide for Rotary clubs, sponsors, and advisors. So if you are the Interact chair or you have an Interact chair, you want to give that to them. It just provides some insights and some things, best practices to do. So that's always good. We have a RILA handbook on how to act and how to interact with the kids. And then Rotary's Media Crisis Guide is online as well. Or I can provide that to you if you ever get in a situation where you need help navigating the media situation. So you can write to Rotary International at youthprotection@rotary.org. So that's different than my email address. That's their email address, youthprotection@rotary.org, if you have any questions. So here's a couple of quiz questions. I'm sure everybody was ready for the quiz. You guys all took notes, right? Yes? No? Good thing you're all on mute. So just answer these to yourself, and then we're going to go over the answers. A youth exchange student who is usually very outgoing and involved in extracurricular activities recently has been missing school and spending a lot of time in their room using social media. You're worried something is happening, but it could just be homesickness. What should you do? 1, wait for the student to tell you if something happened because you want to respect their privacy. 2, tell the student you care about them and are worried that something is wrong. Assure them that their safety is your primary concern. 3, check their phone while they're at school to see if they have any inappropriate messages. Or 4, limit their use of social media and phone time because they appear to be having behavioral issues and not engaging with people around them. So everybody has their answer. The correct answer is tell the student you care about them and are worried that something is wrong. Assure them that their safety is your primary concern. So communication is key. Students need to know that their well-being is what is most important to you and that they can talk to you about their concerns. All right, hopefully everybody got that one right. So quiz question number 2. An Interact advisor is mentoring a club member, and they often spend time alone. At a recent event, you notice them apart from the group, standing very close, touching and whispering to each other. You're concerned that their relationship may be inappropriate. What should you do? 1, nothing. They're in public and not doing anything illegal, so it's not your place to intervene. 2, ask the Interact Club advisor privately if they have a sexual relationship with that student. 3, talk to the advisor, describe the behavior you observed, tell the club president about it, and suggest the president monitor the advisor's behavior. Or 4, tell the student that the behavior you observed is inappropriate and encourage them to report any abuse or harassment right away. Does everybody have their answer? The correct answer is talk to the advisor, describe the behavior you observed, and tell the club president about it, and suggest the president monitor the advisor's behavior. If you think it's inappropriate, it is. Although it may seem difficult, intervene right away. It teaches others about boundaries and emphasizes that youth protection is a priority. Even more important, you may be preventing a more serious situation, including sexual abuse or harassment. Finally, speak with the student to say their safety is important to you and encourage them to report any abuse or harassment. Question number 3. A participant at an overnight RILA tells a counselor they were sexually assaulted by another participant. The young person doesn't want their parents to know, and the camp is scheduled to end the following day. What should you do? 1, do nothing because both camp participants are minors. The youth protection policy doesn't apply. 2, the participant doesn't want it reported. Respect their wish for privacy. Number 3, make sure the 2 participants don't have contact with each other and remove the person accused of assault from contact with all other participants. Notify law enforcement, inform both participants' parents and guardians, and submit an incident report to RI within 72 hours. Or 4, separate the participants and tell them that what they did was inappropriate. When their parents pick them up the next day, tell the parents what happened so they can address it with their children directly. Everybody have their answer? The correct answer is make sure the 2 participants don't have contact with each other and remove the person accused of assault from contact with all other participants. You should notify the law enforcement, inform both parents and guardians, and submit an incident report to RI within 72 hours. Whether they're youth or they're adults, abuse or harassment is abuse and harassment. It's especially important to talk with a student who says they were harmed about how their parents will be notified. Would they rather tell them or have you tell them? Whenever possible, give decision-making power to a person who has experienced the sexual abuse. All right, we have one more question. This is it, I promise. You reported to the police an allegation that a member of your club sexually abused a young person, and authorities are investigating. The club member is well respected and has never been accused of wrongdoing before. Several club members have attested to the person's character and are sure that nothing happened because the student did not report anything for several weeks. What should you do? 1, explain that Rotary will not tolerate any abuse or harassment. Say that to protect both the young person and the club member, law enforcement officers, not Rotarians, must determine the validity of the allegations. 2, tell the accused Rotarian and other club members that you were required to report the incident, but allow the member to keep participating in youth programs under supervision because they have never been accused of impropriety before. Or 3, ask the young person why they didn't report it sooner because that made it seem like everything was fine. The correct answer is explain that Rotary will not tolerate any abuse or harassment. Say that to protect both the young person and the club, law enforcement officers, not Rotarians, must determine the validity of allegations. To protect everyone involved, stand firm in your commitment to youth protection and compliance with the RI policy. If you have any questions, here's my information. And thank you very much for listening. We went a full hour.
All right. Thank you, Matt. I've got just a couple of questions here, and then I will email those to you, Matt, as well, and then you can answer those personally.
Okay.
We've got one here that says, what should we do? In fact, you can stop sharing your screen there, I think.
Okay.
What should we do when a student asks for a ride from their home to a bus location because they don't have a ride?
So if at all possible, if you're going to give somebody a ride, have as many people in the car as, at least 3 people. I recommend at least 3 people, if not more, so that it doesn't become a one-on-one situation. Unfortunately, you may need to decline giving a person a ride just because it's not in your best interest. It's not Rotary's best interest. It's not in your best interest. You don't want to put yourself in a position where something could happen. There's so many different rideshare programs nowadays. You may offer to get them an Uber. You may offer to, ask one of your club members if they'll go with you, so that you'll have multiple people in the car. You may say, get a couple of your friends together and then I'll meet you guys at one location and take you guys. Try to get creative with it. Try very, very hard not to put yourself in a one-on-one position to ride with somebody. If you do come down to a one-on-one position and you need to ride with somebody, the only recommendation I give is have consent from the parents in writing that they know it's only going to be you and the child and everybody understands that situation. But at all costs, I would highly recommend trying to avoid it.
Okay, another one on transportation, that you have a volunteer activity, and Rotarians agreed to provide transportation to an interactor. But the Rotarian needs to leave before the end of the volunteer opportunity. Do they need to make sure how do they make sure that child gets back home?
Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend volunteering to give somebody a ride unless somebody else volunteered to give them a ride home that you know and that is live scanned and that you guys have the appropriate transportation arranged. If you can't take the person and bring them back home safely, because once you take them, it's your responsibility to make sure that they make it back home as well. So unfortunately, again, I would just say if you can commit to, driving them both ways and the parents are they understand and you have multiple people in the car, I would say that would be fine. But I don't recommend just leaving them and leaving them on their own to find a ride home because you actually took them to that location.
Got a question on in addition to reporting to local law enforcement, should anything be reported to Child Protective Services, or would law enforcement do that?
So law enforcement will do that because we're not, until a crime is committed, we have nothing to report to CPS. So unfortunately, the police will do their investigation, and then at that point, they will then partner with CPS or another organization to safeguard the children, either in that home or in any situation. Most of the time, CPS gets involved. It's going to be in a home atmosphere where that person, lives and or needs to find other living space so that they are safe in a safe environment. So, for instance, if somebody was accused that they didn't live with and that they didn't interact with on a daily basis, then CPS may just report, may leave that up to the police to enforce that person not interacting with them. So I guess the short answer is CPS works with the police and the police will get that involved.
Okay. Does Rotary International have a policy to protect the Rotarian from false or alleged improper behavior?
So that's going to come down to, again, you don't want to put yourself in a he said, she said situation, but that's going to be up to the police to investigate and to then come up with a resolution for that. They can guide you on what to say and give you advice on who to interact with and how to interact with people while you're under investigation. But they, unfortunately, not that I'm aware of, they don't provide any legal funding or legal services to you until, as a Rotarian.
Somebody talked about your PowerPoint tonight, and that PowerPoint will be emailed out to all the attendees and shared with everybody. Bill Chase wanted to know if that DOJ form could go in the files up on DACDB on our website so that clubs could get to it.
So
You want it to just happen personally, so with you?
No, I can give it to whoever's in charge of our website, but I'm not sure who that person is.
So this is Dan, and there's a lot of discussion going on about the website, and there's kind of a movement where we'll be moving to a DACDB website instead of the WordPress site that we currently have because of the delays sometimes that it takes to get things up. And as far as district files go and what is put on the website, what isn't put on the website, obviously I think this one would be okay because it's like public information, but we used to put a lot of things that were actually being listed on the district files that probably shouldn't have been open to the public, but only open to the members. So I can't really answer that right now, but certainly I do think that the youth protection form in manual probably don't hurt to be on the public side, but I can't speak for the governor line and how that might go yet. But it's easy to do once I get the okay. How's that?
That'll work. We've got one more question, and it's
wait a minute. The DOJ form is on, I believe it's on both the Pride and the RILA website. For Pride, it's under the Elder tab, and I believe on RILA, it's under the DGL tab. I'm pretty sure the DOJ form is there. If it's not, we'll make sure it's there. How's that?
Mary Helen, it's on Pride. It's actually called Live Scan Form, and it is on the Pride website.
Yeah, and I think Bill's question was the protection manual and exchange handbook, which are a little bit more in depth than just the live scan form.
Yeah, I think that was an addition. So that's great.
Got it.
Super. Thank you for that clarification, Mary Helen. There's just one final question here, and I think it has to do with the liability when we're taking photos of youth. And you mentioned in there making sure you had parental sign-offs, and we certainly do for Pride and RILA, and our Interact conferences and a variety of other things that include youth. This one is somebody has Interact students that are going to a volunteering at a local food bank, and there are other youth there from other school organizations are volunteering at the same time. Do they have any liability if one of these other students ends up getting in a photo with our Interact students?
So if it's a non-Rotary event, then it's not going to fall under the jurisdiction of Rotary, and to my understanding, we can't be held liable for it. But if at all possible, if it is an event that you're hosting, I still highly recommend you have disclosure forms signed, just so that, because you may want to use it for promotional purposes later. You never know when you're going to want to use a photo you take. You never know when you're going to want to use video you take. So as people show up to your event, just have them sign a release form, and then you can post whatever you want on Facebook or Interact or anything like that. More times than not, I haven't seen an issue arise. Just ask them to sign a form, and then you'll have it on file.
Yeah, good. Governor Bear, are you still on here?
Yes.
Any final words, sir?
Want to just compliment Matt on his presentation this evening. Thank you so much. We haven't done this before, and it's an incredible opportunity for you to share this with the district. The members that are on there tonight, the 75 of us still here, thank you so much for being here and being a part of it. And Elizabeth and your team, another kudos to you. You guys knocked it out of the park again. So thank you guys so much.
You're most welcome. Thanks for helping us be part of this. And thank you all of us here that are on here. Make sure you're protecting the youth. And They are our primary concern, and youth is one of the strongest things we have in our district. And we know that our programs are the best in Rotary. We want to protect those and protect our children, and make sure you're protecting yourself. I think is really important. Don't be alone with anybody in youth. Make sure that you've got yourself protected. Matt, great job out there. And
Good job, Matt.
and if other questions, please take those directly to Matt. And we appreciate everybody tonight. And Elizabeth, anything last?
No, everybody that attended will get a PDF of the PowerPoint. It is a rather large file, so hopefully it goes through okay.
Super. And the recording of this will be up on Rotary District 5330 YouTube channel. So we have a YouTube channel, and all the recordings of the other 11 training sessions are up there that have been held. And we have one more for assistant governors that we're going to have on Saturday morning. But thanks everybody. I appreciate it. Be safe out there, and we're all here to help each other. So please reach out as you need to. And good night, everybody.
Thank you everyone for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Night, thank you.
See you later.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye, Rudy.
Thanks, Matt.
Val.
Thanks, Rudy.
Bye.
Thank you, Matt.
Take care.
Yes.